Former PNGDF commander says strong action needed on guns. Security forces on the ground in Hela. And oil search resumes production after February quake.
This is the National EMTV News with Meribah Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us for Tuesday's news. Former commander of the PNGDF, retired Major General Jerry Singarok, says the situation in Hela province cannot be resolved by short-term states of emergency. He said the SOEs are resource draining and taking away police and military from other core functions.
It has been 13 years since the former PNG Defence Force commander handed over the Guns Control Committee report to the government. It contains more than 240 recommendations, as well as strategies on how to tackle the gun problem. Since then, very little action has been taken, and PNG's gun problem has reached crisis levels in some provinces.
How do we enforce democracy when guns are in the hands of the community? Talking about illegal guns, well, it all relates to leadership. Demonstrating leadership, leaders having the political will to address an issue that affects society.
Guns have become one of the biggest obstacles and a contributing factor of slow development. Former Hela Governor Francis Potapes says many of the warlords in Tari are known by authorities. He says political will is also lacking.
If there is no real leadership at the national government, and also at the provincial level, then these things will still go on and on. The current influx of soldiers and policemen on the ground is only temporary, maybe for 2-3 months, and they will come back. Then what happens? Fight will start again.
Mr. Potapes says Hela needs the full arm of law and justice to work. He also questioned the slow opening of our jail, an important facility to lock up those who break law.
You can bring in more policemen, but if you don't have the court system working, and then if you don't have the jail system at Hawa opened, then the missing link will always cause a problem.
The ongoing clashes in Hela and Southern Highlands has again brought the gun debate to the fore, with Major General Singarok calling for immediate implementation of the Guns Control Report.
This is an issue that affects the nation. It affects the image, it affects development, it affects our personal security, it affects investment. So therefore, it must be owned by the government. So the government of the day must address this issue of guns. It cannot walk away.
The report was produced with the help of the United Nations. Singarok says the report recommends different strategies for different communities, with a lot of attention going to the disarming of tribal groups who are in possession of assault weapons. Jack Lopave Jr., National EMTV News.
Meanwhile, retired Major General Singarok urged the government to implement the 244 recommendations submitted in the National Gun Report. Mr. Singarok says the report has been ignored for too long, while the country is seeing gun-related issues on the rise. The National Gun Report was presented to the then Somare-led government in 2005.
Because the government has not even moved. They mentioned it in Parliament, but there is nothing. There is no gun violence council established, because it's part of the recommendations. 244 recommendations. Like I said, guns issue was the most important project undertaken by the government in 2005, and therefore the report that we have given to the government is first class, and it's just ready to be implemented. We just need political will, because everybody is affected by the gun culture.
There is a heavy joint security presence in Tari town to restore peace and normalcy back to Hela province. Hela Provincial Police Commander Martin Lakari said the fight had stopped on Sunday, but the situation remains tense. 7 people were killed in a series of payback attacks.
Provincial Police Commander Martin Lakari said the fight started last Wednesday after the Kupari tribesmen killed a Linapin man who was reputed claimed to be a warlord. The Linapin's tribesmen retaliated and killed 7 Kupari men and set alight more than 50 houses and properties. The fighting stopped since Sunday morning because of the Joint Security Force operation. The current manpower of the joint forces is 56 PNG Defence Force soldiers, 16 men from the Correctional Service, and 102 Mobile Squad members. The Mobile Squad members are from MS-1 McGregor, MS-7 Mount Hagen, MS-19 Tomaringa in Rabaul, MS-11 Wabek, and MS-9 Hela. The Joint Security Forces are monitoring all locations and conducting several roadblocks day and night to ensure that no armed civilians are entering Tari town. The town returns to normal today, with banks and hospitals open for business. PPC Lakari described the fighting and killing as a guerrilla war where there is no battlefield. He urged village leaders to make use of the justice system and report such criminal matters to the police instead of taking the law into their own hands. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
More than 2,000 students in the National Capital District have not been in school for 3 weeks after their school was shut down indefinitely because the facilities were not up to public health standards. Ekivaki Primary and Elementary School students have been turned away at the school gate and asked to check the school after the Term 1 school holidays.
Another week begins and students at Ekivaki Primary and Elementary School have been turned away at the school gates. Meanwhile, grade 8 students come every morning to collect worksheets. The National Capital District Commission has advised that students were sent after an inspection by NCDC health officials on March 8th found that the school did not comply with Chapter 226 of the Public Health Regulations. The inspection found the school's ablution facilities in deteriorating state, with no hand wash basins, inoperable toilets and less than sanitary facilities to cater the students. We requested for an interview with the school's head teacher, Colin Hubert, but were advised the school would speak to media after meeting with the board members. Adelaide Sirox Kari, National EMTV News.
You're watching National EMTV News. We go for a break. When we come back, more of the day's top stories. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. Oil production at Oil Search's central processing facility has recommenced, signaling a gradual restart to production following the magnitude 7.5 earthquake in February. In an announcement to the markets, Oil Search said production had commenced at a number of its Kutubu oil field wells at an initial production rate of 4,000 barrels per day. Oil Search's central processing facility in Kutubu had been shut following the magnitude 7.5 earthquake which hit the area on the 26th of February. In an announcement to the market today, Oil Search advised of the recommencement of production at its CPF, signaling the restart of production. The recommencement of operations at the CPF followed a detailed assessment of all Oil Search operated infrastructure, including the processing equipment, storage tanks and flow lines. According to Oil Search Managing Director Peter Botten, the resumption of safe, reliable and sustainable operations remains a key priority for Oil Search. He says the recommencement of operations at the CPF and oil production at Kutubu just over a month after the main earthquake struck is a testament not only to the robustness of the facility but also the remarkable efforts of their personnel in the field who continue to address the challenge of restoring camps and production at their operated facilities. Whilst operations at the CPF has resumed, rehabilitation work to restore the Oil Search operated Ridge Camp to support the return of production personnel to the central processing and Agogo facilities remains ongoing. Oil Search is expected to revise its 2018 guidance for production as well as operating and capital costs when it reports on its Q1 reports later this month. Steamships Trading gave 50,000 kina to the Salvation Army recently to help assist the victims of the recent earthquake in the Highlands region. The Steamships Board had committed 250,000 kina to earthquake relief and is using this to support the activities of partner agencies and organizations from around the country. In receiving the check from Steamship's Managing Director, Peter Langslow, Salvation Army's Territorial Commander, Colonel Kelvin Alley, said the money will be used to purchase medical supplies. The Salvation Army has medical teams stationed at the Como and Payo aid posts and Mananda Evangelical Church of PNG's aid post, which are located further away from Como, Benaria aid post and the Hides 4 area. The Kerevat police in Eastern Ribbon province are investigating a suicide incident after a 17-year-old girl's body was found last week at Nari on the outskirts of the township. Police say officers responded to a tip-off by community leaders shortly after her body was discovered. A preliminary police investigation appears to show the victim had a rope firmly fastened around her neck.
These are some of the disturbing pictures provided by witnesses who were at the scene. It shows the body of Aileen Wasika, a 17-year-old female student who was found dead about a week ago at the National Agricultural Research Institute on the outskirts of Kerevat Township. She went missing for at least 2 days before her body was discovered. The pictures show her body lying on the ground with a rope still firmly fastened to her neck. The police who were at the scene couldn't confirm if she was murdered or if she had hung herself. A partly decomposed body had been removed and brought to the Nonga General Hospital for a post-mortem to determine a cause of death. Eastern Ribbon Provincial Police Commander Senior Inspector Joseph Tabali says a preliminary investigation has commenced but was halted and will resume after a post-mortem report is made available.
We treat this case as a suspicious death. We will wait for the post-mortem report to determine this.
It is understood a suspect has been apprehended and locked up at the Kerevat police station cell, but police say he hasn't been formally charged until the post-mortem and a formal investigation is completed.
According to the relatives of the deceased, the little girl, and those they are suspecting of killing him or killing her, to remain calm until we find out from the post-mortem report.
Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Kokopo.
Kokoda Track landowners have given the government until the end of this month to review the Kokoda Track Authority. According to Koyari LLG President David Ogi, an independent review into the KTA announced by the Prime Minister early this year has yet to commence. This, he said, is causing uncertainty among landowners. Ogi added the review and restructure of KTA must be done before the end of this month and must involve all stakeholders, including landowners. Meanwhile, Mr. Ogi has also expressed his dissatisfaction on the proposed merger of Edaranu and Water PNG, adding that the establishment of Edaranu under the NCD Act has not benefited Koyari landowners for many years, and the proposed merger must involve consultation with the rightful landowners. You're with Tuesday's news. We'll have more after these messages, including some updates from Parliament this afternoon. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. The Papua New Guinea University of Technology Alumni Association will be officially launched in Lae on Thursday by Minister for National Planning Richard Maru. Since the first 4 Papua New Guineans graduated in 1970, the university has produced close to 20,000 graduates in the last 50 years. The university's acting Vice-Chancellor, Dr. Ora Renagi, said the university saw this as an opportune time to set up a network to collaborate and realize developments.
The PNG University of Technology in Lae has produced almost 20,000 graduates since its first graduation in 1970. Many of these graduates have been involved in the development of the country in different capacities. With the amount of graduates and wealth of knowledge and experience, the university decided to bring together its alumni to help develop the institution.
The committee was able to write a lot of invitation letters to industry, and industry has responded very well. They bought out almost 18 tables for the alumni dinner, and we are very excited to note the support of industry in the launching of the alumni. Unitech has a long history of training engineers and scientists, businessmen, accountants, and IT specialists, surveyors, and experts in communication.
Unitec's Alumni Association was registered last year with the Investment Promotion Authority. The association is an executive committee that is formed by ex-students of Unitec and is led by the interim president, Mr. Ernie Gangloff. The university's acting vice-chancellor, Dr. Ora Renagi, says the committee is yet to confirm the projects they will be involved in. The Alumni Association will be launched in Leh on Thursday, 5th of April by the Minister for National Planning, Richard Maru. Former graduates of Unitec can register with a membership fee of 100 kina to this account number. For more information on how to register, contact the Alumni Officer Ilda Tona at the Alumni Office on campus in Leh on these contact details. Julie Badui Owa, National EMTV News, Leh.
And the PNG University of Technology will have its 50th graduation ceremony next Friday, the 6th of April, with almost 650 graduating. National Planning Minister Richard Maru will be the guest speaker at the ceremony. The theme for this year's graduation ceremony is applying transformative technology towards responsible and sustainable development.
We look forward to graduating the next 650 graduates, going out in and contributing effectively to national development. We also have a very strong postgraduate school, which is the biggest in the country. Over 200 postgraduate students now. But for this year, there will be 37 students graduating with postgraduate degrees. 2 will have PhDs, 3 Masters of Philosophy, 9 Masters of Science, 4 Masters of Communication Studies, and 5 Executive Masters of Business Administration, and 1 Master of Technology, and 13 postgraduate certificates in teaching.
The National Spiritual Assembly of Bahais of Papua New Guinea has unveiled the design of the National Bahai House of Worship in PNG. This will be one of just 2 national houses of worship in the world. Design architects Henry Lape and Syed Granfa said the house of worship is hoped to unite all cultures and faiths in PNG to serve the people.
The National Spiritual Assembly of Bahais PNG have unveiled the design for their National House of Worship. A project that was announced in 2012 and took 5 years for the refining of concept design is now in its final stages of approval from the National Capital District Commission Building Board for construction work to begin.
Express the local context, the cultural setting, the social setting of that place in which it's going to be built. So that now gave us the challenge or the guide now to find a concept that is universal and every Papua New Guinean can relate to.
A collaborative design between 2 architects, Syed Granfa and Henry Lape. Lape told EMTV News that the design has 2 main features.
2 main features is that it has to be circular in form and has 9 sides. And so it's between the range of 15 meters to 20 meters.
This will be the 2nd National House of Worship in the world. The first has been built in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Granfar said that the search for a universal theme in a country with over 800 distinct cultural groups was a challenge. However, the inspiration of the design came from the art of weaving.
Is that it's not actually, when you look closely, it's not a curved surface. It's not smooth and curved, but rather it's made up of flat plates or flat elements.
The National Bahai House of Worship of PNG will be built in Port Moresby at Waigani. It will be elevated above the junction of 2 main roads, connecting the Waigani Valley and June Valley corridors, providing ideal accessibility from all directions. This temple will be open to all denominations and individuals of all walks of life to provide a common place of meditation. Lilian Soperakinea, National EMTV News.
The Papua New Guinea Chamber of Mines and Petroleum has launched a relief appeal to help victims of the devastating earthquake that struck parts of the Highlands, Western and Gulf provinces on February the 26th. This is in addition to the extensive work being done on the ground by its member companies, particularly Oil Search, ExxonMobil and Octedi Mining Limited. Announcing the appeal today, Chamber Vice President Richard Kasman said the Chamber's relief appeal will provide a platform for its members to donate in cash or kind. As part of the appeal, the Chamber will help facilitate the delivery of donations from its members to organizations that are already on the ground and assisting in relief efforts. A committee has been set up to link with established disaster relief initiatives and work in close consultation with Chamber member companies directly involved in relief efforts. The Chamber has started the appeal with a donation of 10,000 kina and is calling on its members, the business community and other interested individuals to donate in cash or kind. The Chamber has over 200 companies as its members and is the only recognized body that represents the resource industry in the country. Its membership also includes industry-associated companies such as those that provide services to the mining and petroleum projects. To some updates from Parliament now, and Prime Minister Peter O'Neill and Finance Minister James Marape were asked a series of questions by MPs of areas affected by the 7.5 magnitude earthquake and other natural disasters in Central Province. The questions asked without notice related to when disaster relief assistance would reach certain areas of the affected provinces and the amount of money the government of PNG itself has allocated for relief efforts, apart from support from donor partners and business houses.
The situation.
Members of Parliament, especially from the disaster-affected areas, were concerned about the speed at which the national government is responding to release funds to districts in order to help people on the ground. Northfly MP James Donald opened the questions.
Of the 50 million contributed by OTML, none of was spent on Western Province. Where the money came from, why? Mr. Speaker, can the Prime Minister answer these questions sincerely and honestly? Thank you.
Again, when will we receive our share of the DSIP funds or the district support grants, together with the financial instruments, in order for us to attend to relief supplies, to attend to the needs of our people?
Prime Minister Peter O'Neill told Parliament that the government had allocated 20 million kina directly to districts for relief efforts, apart from the 59 million kina given collectively by donors and business houses.
Government within days has committed, made a commitment for over the next 3 or 4 years, 450 million kina, which it will have to fund out of its budget to making sure that we rebuild the infrastructures that have been destroyed by the earthquake. Mr. Speaker, only today I just want to give an example of the enormity of the challenge that is ahead of us. It's not an easy task to rebuilding communities that have been destroyed, and I think it does not require politics to be politicized, so that our suffering of our people have been undermined by a political process.
Wabeg MP Dr. Tom Linu also raised a similar question directing to allocation of district funds by Rural Implementation and Finance Minister's Office.
I'm asking if your department can front load our DSIP appropriations of 10 million for the disaster affected electorates upfront instead of the procedural quarterly remittances, so we can address those issues holistically.
We certainly know his district were part of the areas affected by the disaster, and we take note of his recommendations that some of the DSIPs be front-loaded so that he can embark upon this one. We will take on board his views and his recommendations, and we will look into that favorably in due course.
Stacey Yalo, National EMTV News.
There was a brief period of more than 1 point of order in Parliament this afternoon as Medang MP Brian Kramer asked Finance Minister James Marape on the legality of a 3 million kina contract awarded to a foreign company by NCDC under the city's development through yoga program. His question framed on the backdrop of public funds to which he says the public needs answers. While attempting to answer the question, Minister Marape was interrupted by several points of order.
He has a very keen interest in what is happening in NCDC, and I'm lost for words as to what is his interest in regards to the various ceilings and levels of contract disbursements. In as far as contracts below 500,000 kina, these contracts are handled at Section 32 officers that are designated to handle those below.
Although Minister Marape explained that the awarding of contracts is handled by different parties according to the Public Finance Management Act, Governor Pakop interrupted with a point of order, telling Mr. Kramer not to politicize the issue.
A proper, clear answer, not to politicize. So, you know, this question, if...
Governor Minister is answering the question. Minister, go ahead.
Mr. Kramer retained that the issue was concerning public funds and that NCDC should come out clear on how the contract was awarded.
Very, very appropriate channels of government and channels of office we have. Provide to me as a Minister responsible for Public Finance Management Act. He can likewise also provide to the police, and he can provide to the Ombudsman Commission so that they can handle his queries or his disputes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Stacey Yalo, National MTV News.
Here with National MTV News, we go for a break now. When we come back, some sporting updates in Trukai Sports, including the official closing of the 43rd National Game Fishing Titles. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with Rugby League, and the PNG National Rugby League competition is set to begin this weekend. 2 more teams have been included in this year's competition, bringing the total number of teams to 10.
Chimbu Warriors and Gulf Esaus are the 2 new teams that will be taking part this year. This is the second year the Intercity Cup will be running under the PNG National Rugby League competition banner. Last year was used as a trial, and the PNG NRLC board has highlighted errors and have made changes ahead of the new season. The standard of rugby league has risen with teams showing great skill and professionalism during the trial matches. This year's competition will also see the inclusion of communication sets for referees and touch judges to use to communicate during the match. The PNG RFL has supported the biggest in-country tournament and are glad to see the competition improve every year. PNG RFL CEO Realta Rao encouraged fans to get out and support their favorite Intercity Cup teams. Matches kick off this Sunday, 8th of April. The Bintango Gorka Lahanis will play host to the Enga Muyoks, while Mandy Muruks take on Hela Wigmen in Mandy. The Rabaul Gurriers will face the Chimbu Warriors in Kokopo, while a doubleheader will be played in Port Moresby, beginning with the Vipers going up against Wagi Tumbe, followed by Gulf Esaus vs defending champions Lace Next Tigers. Elijah Levet, National MTV Sports.
And PNG NRL competition head Stanley Hondina says there are plans on including more teams in the competition. The increase in teams will require more funding to run the tournament. He says increasing the number of teams may not be possible at this stage.
We want to get out as much as we can, but we're also mindful about the quality of the game. We can't expand too quick and compromise the quality of the game. Also the cost involved in the game, tough economic terms, it's really costly to run a franchise. At the end, we would like to see it grow, but we consider all factors so that we don't compromise. We've worked hard to set the standards up here. We want to maintain it going forward. Opening it too much can bring it down too quick too. So we are mindful of that. But in the long run, it's a national sport. Doing it properly and slowly, we want to get big. And if we can cover all Papua New Guinea to say it is truly a national sport of this country.
Yeah, with Trukai Sports, we go for a break and be back with more in a little while. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The 43rd National Game Fishing titles were a success. That is according to Lay Game Fishing Club President Graham Gangloff. During the 9 days of fishing, there were 338 billfish strikes, 162 tags and release, and 26 weighed, all of which, according to Gangloff, are record numbers. The game fishing titles ended on Sunday. The 44th game fishing titles will be held in Port Moresby next year.
The 9 days of game fishing ended for anglers around the country and from abroad on Sunday, and this is 43rd National Game Fishing titles in Lay. Even on the final day, boats were out reeling in more fish. For Marissa Howden, the final day was her chance to beat her pending national women's record. The struggle with her catch continued for 4 nauseating hours before she finally gave in.
The weather changed and it got really rough and I was fatigued, and just 4 hours later, and unfortunately we had to pull the pin because I couldn't take it anymore.
Nevertheless, she maintained her position and was given the Champion Women's Award, scoring 1,033 points. She was also runner-up in the medium weight category with 1,333 points. Young angler Lucas Sito stole the limelight on presentation night, being awarded the highest point-scoring junior in both the weight and tag categories, and also the runner-up in the medium tag category with 3,200 points.
Tonight, a lot of juniors won prizes. So the likes of Drug Runner, the likes of Black Label, that they have their juniors now fishing. They're the next generation. That's what it's all about.
It was a competitive 9 days of fishing, with boats going out as far as Tami Island. President of the Lay Game Fishing Club, Graham Gangloff, was overwhelmed by the outcome, saying there were records broken.
And 338 marlin strikes, 178 tag, 22 weight. Incredible numbers. I don't think anywhere in PNG's had those numbers previously for any national titles. So
the event brought together 325 anglers nationwide, with a few from abroad and 34 registered boats.
Everyone's caught fish, which is what it's all about, as it is a competition, and everyone's had a result, and I couldn't be happier.
The 44th National Games Fishing titles will be held in Port Moresby next year. Lucy Kopana, National EMTV Sports, Lay.
To athletics now, and Sharon Tauko set a new PNG national record for javelin over the weekend with a throw of 48.6 meters at Colorado State University in Pueblo, improving by 50 centimeters the previous record set by Yamo Launa. The Pomea girl had signaled her intentions the previous week with a throw of 46.89 meters and now has her sights set on throwing over the 50-meter mark. Athletics PNG President Tony Green says this makes Sharon a contender for the Pacific Games gold next year, as she was only a meter behind New Caledonia's Linda Selui in winning silver at the recent mini games in Vanuatu. To snooker now, and Marcus Ning has retained his Port Moresby Open Championship title in the Port Moresby Snooker Open Challenge held over the Easter period in Port Moresby. He defeated Ralph Kaina 5 frames to 1 in the best of 9 frames held at the Lamana Q Club Snooker Room on Easter Sunday.
Marcus Ning was at his clinical best, made little work at the final, winning frames 4-1 easily with Ralph Kaina, showing only glimpses of his hitting skills in 5th frame, winning 51-26. Kaina avoided the complete whitewash before the champion closed out the 6th frame and the title. Kaina did well to overcome Warren Guy 4-3 in the first semis, while Ning had his toughest match of the tournament against Nathan Fong in the second semi-final. Snooker household name Marcus Ning was awarded top seed of the tournament and collected the highest break award with a break of 50. Female ace Gewa John, who made it through to top 16, was awarded the best female award. John was knocked out by Marcus Ning, while Toa Simoy defeated Gamu Miria 2-0 in the plate final. Shane Soroya, National EMTV Sports.
To some sport abroad, and in South Africa, Australia's cricket team says it is confident of a draw in the 4th test despite a huge deficit ahead of the final day.
Another 524 runs to win the 4th and final test.
putting victory all but out of reach. Opening batsman Joe Burns says despite tonight resuming at 3 for 88, there's a great opportunity to regain some of Australia's faith.
Tomorrow's about coming out and just putting a good performance in for Australia, try and do the country proud, and just try and really knuckle down and be proud of the performance tomorrow.
With a win or draw, South Africa will record its first home Test series win over Australia since the end of apartheid.
Australian golfer Jason Day says the buzz surrounding Tiger Woods will not distract him from his preparation for the upcoming US Masters.
14-time major winner Woods is one of the favourites for the famous event and is whipping up a frenzy among fans, even while just practising.
There's going to be a buzz around Augusta this week with Tiger being on the field, being on the grounds this week, and it's going to be exciting to see. But everyone else has got a game plan to do. They've got to try and be the person that's going to slip on that green jacket on Sunday.
Meantime, Sweden's Pernilla Lindberg has won the year's opening women's golf major. She made a 9-metre birdie putt on the 8th extra hole of a marathon playoff against South Korea's Inbi Park. It's Lindberg's first professional title.
And that story ends True Kai Sports for this evening. We will be back with the weather details for the next 24 hours. Stay tuned.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours, and we begin in the southern region. Showers and thunderstorms expected for Port Moresby with a top of 31, a low of 24. Showers for Daru, Kerma and Alotau. A few showers as well for Popondetta. To the Momasa region, fine weather expected in Lae and Wau. Mostly fine as well for Medang, Wewak and Vanimo with a top of 32. To the New Guinea Islands region, a shower or two expected in Buka with a top of 32. A top of 32 as well for the rest of the major centres, Lorengau, Kavieng, Kokopo, Rabaul and Kimbe, but mostly fine weather there. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg can expect a shower or two over the next 24 hours. A low of 12 for Hagen, a low of 13 for Goroka and Kundiawa, and Mendi and Wabeg can expect low temperatures of 12 degrees over the next 24 hours. To a look at the forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours, and there is a strong wind warning current for all coastal waters of Papua New Guinea, including the Coral Sea, Solomon Sea and Bismarck Sea. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island, to Kerama, to Yule Island, to Hood Point, to Samarai Island, seas 1.5 to 3 meters. Waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, and with waters of Samarai Island to Cape Vogel, to Finchafen, and with waters of Finchafen through Vitas and Dampier Strait, to Siasi Island to Long Island, seas 2 to 2.5 meters. Waters of Long Island to Medang, Bogia, Wewak, Aitape, Vanimo and the northern PNG Indonesian border, seas 2.5 to 3 meters. And waters of Manus and its western group of islands, and with waters of East New Britain to New Island and Bougainville, seas 2 to 3 meters. And a look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas. Coral Sea sees rough with northwesterly winds at 25 to 34 knots. Solomon Sea sees rather rough with northwesterly winds at 20 to 25 knots. The Bismarck Sea sees rough with northwesterly winds at 25 to 34 knots. And the Pacific Ocean sees moderate with northeast to northwesterly winds at 15 to 20 knots.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And before we go, a recap of our top stories this evening. Retired PNGDF Brigadier General Jerry Singarok says states of emergency will not solve guns issue as heavy security presence in Tari Town looks to returning order to Hela province and oil production resumes at Oil Search Limited's central processing facility in Kutubu. And that's our news, sport and weather for today, Tuesday, the 3rd of April 2018. On behalf of the entire EMTV National News team, pleasant viewing for the rest of the evening on your number one. Good night.